Church fires are devastating, to say the least. Fires cause death, injury, emotional turmoil, loss of service, and significant property damage. That's why it's important to do everything within your control to ensure fire safety is always top of mind at your church. To most of us, a church represents a community comprised of people of all ages, walks of life, and socioeconomic levels. That's why it's critical to safeguard your church just as you would members of your community. With that in mind, you can help ensure your leaders, staff members, and congregation are taking the proper steps to have a safe church. In support of your efforts, this training module on fire safety was created by the risk management experts at safechurch.com. In the next few minutes, you'll hear about the impact and prevention of church fires. In addition, we'll share several key tips to help reduce the risks. According to the U.S. Fire Administration, arson is the leading cause of fires in the United States, with an annual cost of $1 billion. At Guide One Insurance, we've seen many arson cases, along with open flames, electrical issues, and lightning. Fortunately, there are measures you can take to decrease the chances that an arsonist will strike. For instance, you may want to think about establishing an arson and crime prevention program. A helpful first step would be to visit with local fire safety experts. So what makes some churches easy targets for an arsonist? Usually there are 4 reasons. First, buildings often are unoccupied. Second, activity schedules are predictable. Third, security systems may be lacking. And fourth, arsonists, vandals, and other criminals may target churches because of their beliefs. To learn more, there is an arson and fire prevention fact sheet that includes an arson prevention checklist online at the Safe Church website. But to get your thinking going further, here are a few more tips. It's important to have good lighting from sunset to sunrise on the exterior of buildings, around doors and windows, and in parking lots. Keep your doors and windows locked when the building is unoccupied. Be sure to trim tree limbs and shrubs around doors and windows to eliminate hiding places. In addition, you may want to install video security cameras at your main entrances and other key areas on church property. Don't store ladders outside, and trash containers should be kept as far away from the building as possible. It's a good idea to keep track of and limit the number of keys to the church. Better yet, think about installing a keyless electronic entry system, and consider having motion-activated lighting installed near your windows and doors. Now, we need to discuss how to reduce arson as it relates to the interior of your church. Let's go inside. There are several tips for reducing arson inside your church. Use timers for lights or radios during evening hours. Store flammable liquids such as paint and thinner in an approved Underwriters Laboratory listed fire cabinet, away from heat sources. Install a central station monitored security and fire alarm system. Consider an automatic fire sprinkler system. Ensure that smoke and heat detectors are operational and fire extinguishers are regularly serviced. Also, there are a few things you can do that won't even cost a thing. Ask your neighbors to call the police if they ever see something suspicious happening on church property. Develop positive relationships with your local law enforcement and invite them to patrol the property during overnight hours. Establish a church watch program and ask volunteers to drive around your church property at various times throughout the week. More tips on how to start a church watch program can be found on safechurch.com. Faulty heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems are another common source for church fires. It's important to have a licensed professional look at your HVAC systems each year. A little maintenance goes a long way toward keeping your equipment properly working and your church community safe. It's also important to make smart and safe choices throughout the year. Make sure combustible items are stored no closer than 3 feet from heating units. If combustible materials have to be stored within the building, the best way to prevent a fire is by permanently relocating the material to a closet or storage room that is free of any type of equipment. Code requirements for air conditioning units require the installation of a safety disconnect between the condensing unit and the main electrical service feed. This safety disconnect must be within sight and readily accessible. This will allow shutting down power for maintenance operations and emergencies, such as mechanical failure or electrical fires. National and local electrical codes are developed to protect people and property. Code compliance will ensure electrical installation is done correctly and make the operation of equipment safer. Now let's cover another area that is extremely important to fire safety: electrical. Electrical-related fires are occurring more often every year, causing severe losses. That's why it is critical to check for inadequately maintained electrical systems and focus on a preventative maintenance program. Across America, there are aging and overburdened electrical systems that are not designed to handle the load that most churches need as more equipment is added. These antiquated systems are a leading cause of operational interruptions, poor energy efficiency, equipment that wears out or just breaks down. Fortunately, something can be done to help. You can establish an effective electrical preventative maintenance program. According to the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, such a program can reduce your risk of an unscheduled outage by as much as 66%. To help us learn more about electrical preventative maintenance programs, I asked Mike, a local electrician, to share a few tips. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Thanks for being with us today. Well, there is a comprehensive electrical self-assessment survey on the Safe Church website. Do you mind sharing some key insights on why electrical systems and equipment should be evaluated and inspected on a regular basis?
Sure. All electrical equipment has a limited service life. That's why most electrical systems that are more than 30 years old have a greater occurrence of failure. But the good news is more than 2/3 of electrical system failures can be eliminated by routine preventative maintenance. In general, it's recommended that once every 3 years, preventative maintenance is conducted on electrical equipment by a qualified electrician or licensed electrical contractor. This preventative maintenance program ensures that the electrical system is clean, cool, and dry, and connections are tight.
Thanks, Mike. Now, let's spend a few more minutes discussing in greater detail the 4 components that make up an electrical preventative maintenance program. Keep it clean. Always keep your electrical apparatus and equipment rooms free of excessive dust and dirt accumulation. Absolutely do not use the electrical equipment room for storage. It's also wise to limit access to this area to authorized individuals and maintenance personnel. Keep the area cool. It's important to prevent excessive heat buildup in electrical equipment and equipment rooms. Exceeding design temperatures could be a fire hazard and shorten the life of your equipment. Also, keep equipment rooms dry and protected from moisture. If moisture is found, check for damage, identify the source, and immediately eliminate it.
It's also important to make sure all wiring is tight and secure. Loose electrical connections are the most common source of electrical equipment failure. A licensed electrician should check for loose connections and make any necessary repairs during routine maintenance.
What are some other things you look for when conducting routine maintenance?
We evaluate the equipment that's in place. Dated technologies such as knob and tube wiring or a fuse-based system often indicate potential issues. Temporary wiring solutions also have become more commonplace and can lead to problems. We have also found that electrical maintenance and repair within the church is often done by do-it-yourself volunteers or staff members who are not qualified. The risk of electrical failures, fire, and electrocution increase significantly when work is performed by unqualified personnel. When it comes to electrical work, it is critical to hire licensed electrical contractors who have the skills necessary to complete the job correctly and safely.
Knob and tube wiring has not been installed since the 1950s, however, may still be found in use today. This old-fashioned technology simply presents too many potential fire hazards. If any of your church's electrical system functions with knob and tube wiring, it should be updated immediately by a licensed electrical contractor. For further information, please visit the Safe Church website.
Now let's talk about fuses. Fuses are commonly found in church buildings, as many churches are older and were originally built when electrical services were protected with fuses. Fuses can be safe. After all, by design, they stop the flow of current when the circuit is overloaded or when a short circuit develops in a wire or ground fault. Yet, newer technology is better. We recommend that fuses be replaced and updated with circuit breakers.
If a circuit breaker upgrade is not feasible, at the very least, make sure to have a certified electrician or licensed electrical contractor inspect the electrical system. The presence of fuses indicates that the electrical system is more than 40 years old and the wiring was installed to meet the electrical needs of 1970s or earlier. The power demands of today's world are much different, with new appliances, computers, office, and audio-visual equipment. More often than not, a blown fuse is the result of an overloaded circuit. If a fuse is continually blowing, that indicates that there is too much demand on the circuit, which can lead to much more serious problems.
It is all too common practice to stop a fuse from continually blowing by installing a higher rated fuse in the circuit, replacing a 15-amp fuse with a 20-amp fuse, for example. That is a recipe for disaster, as that quick fix allows for more current in the circuit than it was designed to handle. That can lead to overheating of the wire and possibly fire.
To prevent overfusing the circuit, Type S tamper-proof fuses should be installed for all screw-in fuse panels. If the fuse is continually blowing, as earlier discussed, this is an indication of a more serious problem and should be corrected by a licensed electrical contractor. Temporary wiring is an easier and less expensive solution than having additional electrical services installed. However, temporary wiring usually becomes the permanent solution, and that can lead to serious hazards such as electrocution, short-circuiting, and fire.
If the use of extension cords is necessary, please make sure to follow some basic safety precautions. Never cut off the ground pin to connect a 3-prong appliance cord to a 2-wire extension cord or receptacle. If an extension cord's insulation has been damaged, throw it away. Never try to repair a damaged cord with electrical tape. Extension cords should never be nailed down, stapled, run through walls, under rugs, or across doorways.
It's also important to avoid placing cords where someone can accidentally trip over them.
That's right. Also, never use an extension cord that is coiled, looped, or tied in a knot. And, when necessary, make sure to use special heavy-duty extension cords that are designed for high-wattage appliances such as air conditioners and freezers. Similar consideration applies to outside use of cords. Make sure the product is rated for outdoor applications.
Power strips are really just an extension cord with multiple receptacles, and the same safety precautions apply. In addition, make sure to use only power strips that have a built-in circuit breaker that will trip if overloaded or shorted. Also, never locate a power strip where it can be covered with a rug, furniture, or any other item that prevents air circulation. Under no circumstances should one power strip be plugged into another power strip.
Some other common electrical hazards include missing covers on junction boxes, switches, and outlets, exposing energized circuits, creating arc flash, shock, and electrocution hazards.
Now let's take a minute to talk about one of the leading causes of electrical equipment failure.
Sure. That would be transient voltage, which is better known as an electrical surge. Transient voltage is a short surge of electricity or rise in voltage that exceeds safe levels of operation for electrical equipment. There are several sources of an electrical surge, but the main causes are a direct or nearby lightning strike, operations of high-power electrical devices such as elevators, air conditioners, and refrigerators, faulty wiring, problems with the utility company's equipment, and downed power lines, blackouts and brownouts, and restoration of power during and after storms.
Electrical surges render equipment useless by damaging sensitive circuits and related components. So, how can you protect your equipment from electrical surges? The best way to avoid surge damage is to unplug equipment and turn switches off during or after a storm or power outage. Then, once the threat passes or the power is restored, plug the equipment back in one piece at a time. In conjunction with an electrical grounding system, the best means of protecting your electrical equipment from transient voltage is to install surge protection devices throughout your facility. Surge protection devices contain electrical components that sense an electrical surge or spike and then divert this excess voltage safely to ground. That's why adequate grounding within your electrical systems is so critical.
Even the best surge protectors will not properly function if the electrical grounding system is substandard. For the best defense, surge protection devices should be applied using a zoned approach. Zone 1 protects the electrical service entrance equipment to protect against surges from outside the facility. Zone 2 covers each distribution panel supplying critical or sensitive electronic equipment, addressing internally generated surges. And Zone 3 is localized coverage for each piece of equipment requiring protection, such as computers, modems, fax machines, copiers, and printers.
Thanks for those great insights, Mike. To better understand your building's potential exposure to an electrical loss, an electrical self-assessment survey is available on the Safe Church website. Check it out. Now let's take a look at specific areas within the church and discuss what steps can be taken to help reduce the risk of fire. Today, many religious institutions are providing meals for daycares, soup kitchens, Meals on Wheels, and other similar operations. As a result, commercial kitchens are a common feature found in many churches today and an obvious location for fire hazards. Commercial cooking operations have cooking equipment that produces grease and grease-laden vapors. This includes flat grills, char broilers, and deep fat fryers. When a church operates a commercial kitchen, many safety considerations must be addressed. A typical residential range, electric or gas, would not be considered a grease-producing appliance. Other equipment such as ovens, microwaves, and steam kettles also fall into the non-grease-producing appliance category. With that in mind, let's turn our attention back to the most common types of equipment that produce grease or grease-laden vapors. Deep fat fryers are a major cause of kitchen fires. Oil can splash and easily come in contact with an open flame from an adjacent piece of equipment, like a gas-fired range top. A 16-inch clearance must be maintained between the deep fat fryer and the open flame cooking equipment. If a 16-inch clearance is not possible, a vertical steel barrier extending 12 inches above the top of the deep fryer or open flame appliance can be installed. All deep fat fryers should be equipped with a high temperature limiting device that will shut off the fuel or energy if the cooking oil exceeds 475 degrees Fahrenheit. Another piece of cooking equipment that can produce grease or grease-laden vapors is a flat grill or griddle. Flat grills or griddles are often used for frying hamburgers or bacon. To adequately control the fire hazard associated with these types of cooking operations, two fire protection components must be installed: a hood and ventilation system and an automatic extinguishing system. Both of these components should be installed according to the National Fire Protection Association Standard 96. So let's talk about the first fire protection component, a hood and duct ventilation system. A kitchen hood and duct ventilation system reduces the likelihood of fire by effectively removing heat, grease, and grease-laden vapors from the cooking area. The hood must be equipped with the appropriate grease removal filters. Only baffle-style filters should be used. Accumulation of grease is a major cause of commercial cooking fires. It's important to have the hoods, grease removal filters, fans, ducts, and other equipment cleaned by a qualified contractor at intervals so that grease does not accumulate. While a 6-month interval is standard, the frequency of cleaning depends upon the amount of grease that you see during an inspection. The second critical component is to install an automatic extinguishing system. All cooking equipment that produces grease or grease-laden vapors should be protected by an automatic extinguishing system. This system should meet the UL 300 standard and be installed in accordance with the National Fire Protection Standard 96. This system also should be inspected and serviced every 6 months by a qualified contractor. Wet chemical fire extinguishers are the best portable extinguisher available for kitchen operations. K-rated extinguishers are recommended for commercial kitchens. Fire extinguishers should be located no more than 30 feet from the cooking area. In addition, be sure to have an approved licensed contractor maintain your extinguishers at a minimum of once a year or as indicated by the manufacturer's recommendations. In the United States, fires strike a home or building every 80 seconds. The thought of a fire is terrifying. Even a small fire can cause enough smoke and water damage to shut the church down for weeks. One of the most effective methods for controlling and suppressing a fire is the installation of an automatic fire sprinkler system. In addition, early detection and warning of fire is critical. This can be done by installing a fire detection and alarm system. Sprinkler systems are designed with heads strategically located throughout the building to provide full protection when a fire occurs. When automatic sprinklers are present, the average property loss from fire is cut by 1/2 to 2/3, as compared to fires where no sprinklers are in place. Early detection can include smoke and heat detectors that will activate an alarm under fire conditions. A fire alarm system can consist of manual pull stations, horns, and strobes. If your church has a fire detection or alarm system installed, make sure it is serviced on an annual basis by a qualified contractor to ensure its proper working condition. To learn more about automatic fire sprinklers and early detection systems, please visit our Safe Church website for an informative fact sheet. The last two topics that we're going to cover today are candles and flammable liquids. When present in your church, these items create distinct fire hazards and require special attention. Does your church use candles? Keeping a close eye on burning candles seems pretty obvious, but even the most diligent individuals can forget sometimes. Recently, a candle was left burning in a church restroom and the wallpaper caught fire, spreading to the kitchen, causing water and smoke damage. The total cost of this loss was $50,000. To help make sure this tragedy doesn't happen at your church, here are a few tips for candle fire safety. Never leave a candle burning unattended. Extinguish all candles when you leave the room. Don't place candles in windows or near doorways where drafts could bring combustibles, such as curtains, in contact with the flames. Keep candle wicks trimmed to 1/4 inch and do not leave the room until wicks have stopped glowing. The other important fire safety topic is flammable and combustible liquids. Typically, these items are used by churches for building and grounds maintenance. Improper storage and dispensing of these liquids can result in spills or leaks, which then can lead to major fires if ignited. There are many types of flammable and combustible liquids that can be found in your church, including gasoline for lawnmowers and snow blowers, as well as stains, paints, and solvents for building maintenance. To help reduce the risk of fire, here are a few tips. Storage of flammable and combustible liquids should be in approved Underwriter Laboratories listed fire cabinets. It is never a good idea to store on open shelving, as this will not contain a spill and will expose the containers under fire conditions. To reduce the amount of flammable and combustible liquids, periodically complete an inventory and properly dispose of old or partial containers that are no longer used or needed. And gasoline should be kept in UL-listed safety cans. These containers are designed to prevent combustion of the contents. Even when you have carefully followed all the preventative steps we've covered here, there is still another critical preparatory step. You need a fire emergency plan in place. Step one is an evaluation of your building and an understanding of its occupants at any given time. Know when your church has its greatest occupancy levels and where the people will likely be located during those peak times. How does this likely differ during a church service or during Sunday school compared to preschool sessions or when an outside organization is using your facility? Know your population, specifically how to safely evacuate the elderly, disabled, and children in the nursery or daycare. Thoroughly understand your facilities. Where are elevators and fire exits located? Where are alarms located? Map out fire emergency resources. Where are the fire pull stations? Where are the fire extinguishers? Is there adequate emergency lighting, and what are the pathways that illuminate? Develop evacuation routes. Prepare a diagram of the evacuation routes and post the information throughout your church and other facilities. Include a warning to not use elevators in case of fire. It's also a good idea to designate specific assembly locations outside the building so you can more easily account for all individuals. Make sure to highlight these locations on the evacuation diagram. With an evacuation plan in place, it's important to make sure that you regularly conduct fire drills. This will help prepare everyone for emergency situations, and it gives you a great way to evaluate and update your emergency procedures. The final element of your fire emergency plan is a critical one. Please make sure that you develop and post a standard fire emergency plan so everyone knows exactly how to respond in case of a fire. If anyone sees a fire, detects smoke, or smells a burning odor, the first step is to pull the closest fire alarm to alert everyone in the building to the potential danger. If you or others are in no immediate danger, find and use the nearest fire extinguisher to battle the fire. If danger exists, immediately exit the building using the closest safe evacuation route. It's important that elevators not be used. Once you are out of harm's way, call 911 to notify emergency personnel of the situation. The next step is to start accounting for all individuals that are safely gathered in the designated areas outside the building. Let officials know if you suspect anyone is still inside the building. Visit safechurch.com to access a complete emergency preparedness plan. We hope the overall guidelines and tips within this video have been useful. Working together, we can help you keep your church and community members safe from fires. With that in mind, please take advantage of the resources and forms available on our website for additional details, fact sheets, and checklists. Please know that all of the hard work, time, and patience you devote to your ministry are greatly appreciated by the entire congregation, including your neighbors, law enforcement, and local firefighters. Take care, be safe, and God bless.